Welcome to the Brand and Market Podcast, where branding clarity meets marketing strategy. I'm your host, Allie Haney, founder of Brand and Market, a boutique agency dedicated to helping small businesses craft intentional brands and effective marketing plans. Each week, I share practical tips and insights to help you, especially those of you in real estate-related industries, build a standout brand to attract your brand's biggest fans. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Brand and Market Podcast. Today's episode is going to be a fun one. We are going to play a little game, and that game is intended to get to know your brand a little bit better. So let me first lead off with this question. What if your brand were your partner? Kind of a weird question, right? But what I want to get at is, would you two still be madly in love, or has the spark faded a little bit since you started your business? Today, we're diving into a fun and introspective exercise. We are going to be playing the Newlywed Game with your brand. Let's see how well you really know the heart of your business. Okay, for those of you who don't know what the Newlywed Game is, I will be the first one to admit that I've never actually watched an episode of the old game show, the Newlywed Game. So I'm going to kind of give you a synopsis of what I do know. Essentially, it is a game show host that is asking a bunch of newlywed couples all of these different questions about their partner. And the goal is to see how well they know their partner that they just married. And there are different rounds that have different themes of questions. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to see how well you know your brand. So as I go through each round, I want you to answer the questions that I pose to you, and we will see how deeply connected you are with your brand, or we might find out where your brand needs a little bit of extra love. Okay, without further ado, let's dive right in to round one of the Newlywed Game with your brand. The theme of round one is getting back to the basics. Okay, so first question of the basics of your brand. What is your brand's mission? Okay, I ask this because, no shame, I did not have a mission for my brand until about 4 years in. Oftentimes, when we start businesses, we are just focused on getting all of the things checked off our to-do list, and sitting down and writing our brand's mission is not one of those things that takes priority. So first, I want to ask you, what is your brand's mission? Second, follow-up question, does your brand have a mission? If so, can you tell me that mission without looking it up? Because oftentimes, if we do actually sit down and write that mission, we create that mission statement, it gets so far buried in a Google Doc inside of our Google Drive that we wouldn't even know how to find it in the first place. So with that being said, if that mission is not being consistently seen, consistently utilized, consistently being stayed true to, then that mission doesn't really mean much in terms of our brand. Okay, so now that we have that mission in front of us, or you have that mission sort of top of mind, the next question I want to ask you is, does that mission still align with your goals for your business? Does that mission still align for the growth that you've seen? Does it still align with the audience that you're trying to speak with or speak to? This brings me to my second question of getting to know the basics of your brand. Who is your brand's ideal client? Is this ideal client the same client that you spoke to when you first started your business, or has it evolved a little bit? Follow-up question, what problem are you trying to solve for that ideal client? Oftentimes, when we start our business with maybe one service offering, because we are trying to solve just one problem. But then we continue to add on service offerings, right? As we see that our clients are having different problems that we could fix. As we continue to add those service offerings on, are they still aligned with our mission that we just defined in the last question, or not? In addition to figuring out whether or not our ideal client is the same as it was when we started our business, now that you've had the opportunity to work with multiple clients, you can kind of start to formulate that North Star client. And those are the clients that I like to describe as your dream clients. They're the ones that guide you back, that give you the hope. So If you have altered who that North Star client is for you based off of the previous clients that you've been able to work with, then let's tweak and adjust that ideal client avatar so that we can continue to strive and target those North Star clients. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, now we are going to be starting round two. We have some of the basics out of the way, our mission and our ideal client. And now we are going to be digging into our brand's values and our brand's identity. So, first question of round two are, what are the three core values your brand lives by? What are the three core values your brand lives by? Are these sitting right next to your mission statement in that Google Doc that's buried inside of your Google Drive? Or are these values sitting front and center somewhere in your office, on your desk, on your desktop or your laptop screensaver? Where are those three core values and how are they visible not only to your naked eye, but in your messaging to your ideal clients, in your copy on your website, in your social media captions? How are they visible within your technical branding visuals? How are they visible in your actions and your client experience? If those three core values aren't clear, not only to you, but to your ideal client, then they aren't really helping to propel your brand forward at all. Okay, if you have those three core values, you can scratch that down right next to your mission statement. And we are moving on to the next question of the Newlywed Game with your brand. Now, this is a fun one. If your brand had a personality, how would you describe it? Okay, this is kind of like the intangible portions of your brand. Think about brand tone, brand adjectives, brand imagery, things like that. Let's break it down for the sake of simplicity into three adjectives. If someone had to describe your brand, not your business, not the service offerings that you offer, but your brand, in three adjectives, what would they be? That could actually be a fun Instagram exercise if you guys, or social media exercise, wherever you guys are most active, to put some sort of interactive like question box or DM me with the three words that you think of with my brand to actually poll your audience that you already have, that already exists, to see what their impression of your brand is. Because when it really comes down to it, your audience's impression of your brand is your brand. Even if, you define your brand and you're trying for these three adjectives, but you're hitting these three adjectives over here, then really it's misaligned. And that could be really a good tell as to whether or not you are on par with the brand adjectives that you really want to put out to the world. Okay, if we want to keep going further into this sort of like personality question, what is your brand's tone of voice? So whenever you write any copy, what is that tone going to sound like? When I used to be a wedding photographer, I always used to say that my brand tone was that of an older sister they were guiding with care and a little force. Like brides wanted to be told what to do because they've never been in a situation where they've had to plan their own wedding before. So I was that kind of voice of reason that gave them the structure and clarity that they needed on their wedding day when it came to their wedding timeline for photography. If you could boil down your brand's tone of voice, what would it be? Who would you be? Who would your brand be? Ding, ding, ding. Next round, round three. We are now going to be transitioning over into examining your client experience. So this is kind of coming off of an episode that we just recently did all about client experience. But in terms of this episode, we're going to give you a couple of different questions that you can specifically answer. First question of round three is, how does your brand make clients feel when they interact with it? Does your client experience actually match your intended emotional connection? So think back to those brand adjectives that you just wrote down and tell me, does your client experience also align with those three adjectives? Because if not, we need to take a little bit of a closer look at it. Question number 2 for round 3, what is one thing your brand does better than anyone else? Okay, this is what's called your UVP. It's a core part of branding and marketing. I want to know what you do better, how you do it differently, what makes you different than the next person that offers the same thing as you. And if you can't immediately tell me what that is, then that's something that we need to get to the bottom of ASAP. Okay, I'm going to take this one a little bit of a step further. So if you have that UVP, your unique value proposition, and you know exactly what it is, then let me ask you this. Is that differentiator, is that UVP clear in all of your marketing? Whenever I do brand analysis for clients, I go through, I have them, once they're onboarded, they answer this questionnaire, and it's all about, their brand values, their brand mission statement. And I get all of that prior to even going into their online deep dive to investigate their brand. However, what I don't ask them in this questionnaire is very strategic. I don't ask them what their UVP is, what their unique value proposition is, what their differentiator is. I don't ask that because as I'm going through their social media, their email marketing funnels, their website, everything I can dig up about them, I, as a potential client, or at least looking through a potential client's lens, should be able to immediately tell what the UVP is. And so if I can't, that's one of the very first things that I bring up in our analysis call. So if I can't look at your website, I can't look at your socials, and I can't tell what your UVP is, then that's something that needs to be fixed ASAP. Ding, ding, ding. All right, final round, round 4 of the Newlywed Game with your brand. Let's talk about the future goals of your brand. First question in round 4 is, what is your long-term vision for your brand? And are you taking steps to get there? Okay, we're thinking farther than just 1 year in the future. We're thinking 10, 15, 20 years in the future. We're thinking selling our business. We're thinking passing it down to our children. What is the long-term vision for your brand? And are those daily actions that you take every single day when you wake up, are they aligned with your brand's big picture goals? Final question of the Newlywed Game. This is question 8 of 8, and it could quite possibly be the hardest one yet. If you could change one thing about your brand right now, what would it be? And not only do I want you to tell me what that change would be, I want you to tell me why you would change it. Why does it need to be different? What's holding you back from making this change? This one is meant to be more introspective. I'm not going to obviously ask you for a specific answer, A, because this is a podcast, and B, because that could take a lot of thought and time. But if there was one thing that you could change, I would want to know what it was so that we could take that change, fix it, and then bring you one step closer to your long-term vision for your brand and your business. So I know this is kind of like a silly little game on the podcast today, but I really hope that it starts to kind of scratch the surface of figuring out whether you are still in love with your brand, or maybe you've seen a little bit of growth and change and it's time for your brand to be able to match that change so that you can more adequately appeal to your ideal client, the new ideal client of the new iteration of your business. This game was a little bit silly, but I hope you found it kind of helpful and a lot fun. So I just want to encourage you that if you found yourself kind of stumbling on some of these questions, if you were like, I don't have a mission statement, or I haven't looked at that mission statement in years, I can't think of my 3 core values off the top of my head, I don't know what my UVP is. If there were any of those questions that you weren't able to answer, it's okay. It's okay. That's just a sign that your brand is ready for a little bit of extra love and attention. So maybe you need a revamped brand strategy. Maybe you need a website redesign so that you can dial in your messaging and your copy. That's all okay. Okay, just take it one step at a time. But if you did love this exercise and it kind of scratched the surface for you to deep dive into your brand, I would love to invite you to my Valentine's Day challenge. It is called Fall Back in Love with Your Brand, and it is a 5-day email challenge. It is totally free, and it is the week leading up to Valentine's Day. So I am going to each day send you an email with a free way to enhance your brand, elevate your brand, revisit your brand, and a paid way to enhance, elevate, and revamp your brand. So you will have 2 options and 2 tasks each day of those 5 days. And that way, by the end of the week, you can fall back a little bit more in love with your brand if you've been feeling a little misaligned lately. If you'd like to sign up for that email challenge, you can do so by hitting up the show notes and signing up for it through that link. I'm really excited for you all to fall back in love with your brand. So go ahead and sign up for that challenge. I'm super excited to see everybody in there. So until next week, here's to clarity, intention, and knowledge in your brand and your market. Signing off till next week, this is Allie Haney, your host of the Brand and Market Podcast. You just completed another episode of the Brand and Market Podcast. If you found this helpful, please rate, review, and subscribe to help others find this show and so that you never miss an episode. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for all the resources mentioned today. See you next Wednesday, and as always, I'm here cheering you on as you build your dream brand and business.